Yeah, we were asking people if they could make their arms smaller, and then we found him. And we were like, oh, sweet, it's already been done.
How do you like, because I don't know if a lot of people know, Steve is like a master improviser. And you, but you are.
You can tell. Fart bombs?
I reached for the bottom. I reached for the bottom of the barrel.
Oh, someone's old-timey phone is calling. Hello, contact 7349. That's a good reminder to pick up your phone. So you're already working on season 3, season 2 for you.
That's in the rearview mirror.
It's totally in the rearview mirror.
Don't ask me any questions. I don't even remember it.
You remember?
I know. I'm
going.
I will say this. I believe everyone agrees that the 2 episodes since we've come back have been pretty awesome. I think my 2 fellow Walking Dead showmakers can attest that they really haven't seen anything yet, right? Like the stuff coming up is so much crazier.
It's all fireworks.
Fireworks, fire bombs.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more pharmacy sex and more shelf zombie killing and motorcycle riding and handsome being.
They stumble into a zombie Chinatown and buy fireworks.
It's going to be great. But anyway, do you have a question in there?
No. I know that people who are in the Talking Dead offices who've seen, I don't watch ahead because I kind of I feel like people take for granted now where you can just watch anything all at once, and I really like week to week looking forward to each episode.
Have you watched tomorrow's episode?
I haven't yet.
Wow.
I know. Well, there's no DVD player in the hotel room. But I have it, but I just haven't been able to watch it.
Next year we'll do this in a different hotel just for you.
Yeah, please.
Hotel
we need a DVD player. My life is hard. It's really hard, you guys. How am I supposed to watch it? Just when people from the Talking Dead come in, they're like, oh my God, you have no idea what's going to happen on the end of the day. That's exactly what I said. No, these are cynical writers, and they said they can't believe some of the stuff that's coming up on the episode. Is there anything that you can tease for the next 4 episodes?
I tell you, tomorrow night's episode is going to be a pretty big blowout. There's a little bit of fisticuffs going on between someone whose first name starts with an R and someone else whose first name starts with an S. So that could be pretty explosive. And then from there, there's just a whole lot of crazy coming. I honestly can't spoil anything. I don't know. There's a lot of big stuff coming.
I think I've been fascinated to watch Lori's character in the television show, which I think is very different from comic book Lori, because just that episode where she's literally pushing what you think is Shane's developing baby onto Rick's back while going, he's poisoning the group. I mean, she's totally getting into that male brain being like, he had sex with me, and now he's trying to tell me what, and she's totally manipulating him. But I feel like I see a lot of people who aren't as alpha as Rick and Shane. Like, I think Dale is doing the same thing. He's Mr. Passive-Aggressive Manipulator. So how do you see their characters in terms of, I feel like there's a lot of different people fighting for control of the group in different ways.
I think it's really at the core that I think everybody is just terrified, and I think that's manifesting in different ways. I think that Lori had just had that car wreck and had just had that confrontation with Shane and had just experienced another moment where Rick was not there for her.
Yeah.
And I think that she was trying to activate him to a certain extent to kind of fix the problems that she was perceiving. And I think that all of that comes from fear. I think that everything that Shane does that seems to be somewhat dark. Are they making fun of me? Pay attention, guys. But I think it all comes from the fact that everyone is terrified. I think that Dale doing all the things that he's doing, it's because he's scared, and that's what this world is. Everyone is terrified of everything around them and trying to make sense of it all and figuring out how they're going to live. And it's got them interacting with each other in really different ways.
Yeah. Now we're starting to see them interacting with other people, like that sort of rogue group, where, we talked about this a little bit on the show, where Glenn Mazzara said they cast actor Michael Raymond James, who's a fairly recognizable actor, so then you go, oh, that guy's probably going to be a character now, and then blam! And he said you guys sort of did that on purpose to throw people off the trail a little bit.
Yeah, that was something that the writers' room, I think it was Glenn Mazzara and Evan Riley who wrote that episode, really pushed for. You know, they wanted that guy to have weight, and they wanted it to be, you know, a really memorable scene. And I think having an actor of that caliber come in to do such a small role is very important because, I mean, that scene in particular was really the first time that they've ever had any kind of really dangerous interaction with another human being. You know, when they encountered the Vatos in the first season, you know, they actually kind of figured out that, you know, they were all going to be able to work together and all that kind of nonsense. So this was really the episode where you see that, you know, like the comic book series, the zombies are eventually going to be a manageable threat, and it's going to be the other people in this world that they're really going to have to look out for. And is Rick going to be prepared to handle that? Oh, by the way, he is. You know,
right.
So that's a very important scene.
I'm curious about Daryl's character. Do you think he would be satisfied just to go live in the woods by himself forever? Or do you think some part of him needs other people?
You know, I think he likes being around other people. I think now that he's not under the thumb of his brother and you know, whatever style of life that was before, he's starting to, you know, feel good about having interaction with other people for the first time. It's kind of like his coming out party in a weird way.
Yeah.
He's starting to have relationships, I think, for the first time. So I think it's interesting to watch somebody who can't communicate be forced to communicate. You know what I mean?
I kind of like seeing him do that little kid thing where he's just far enough. He's staying just far enough outside the group to be like, I don't need you guys. I want to make sure you can hear me that I don't need you.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, it's that last scene with he and Carol. You know, how do you really left? You don't have a husband. You have a daughter. And he's basically saying all that shit to himself.
Yeah.
You know, he could be saying all those lines and just change them up. He's saying things. He's starting to learn about himself, which is super interesting to watch.
Yeah. Do you think Glenn's character do you think he really could resist being with Maggie if it meant, like, you know, we need to survive, I can't be in love, I can't have these emotional ties to anyone?
You know, like I said about you know, messing up his thing, you know, like it really is. I mean, I guess to anyone living in that situation, like like coming from an outside perspective, like someone who's watching the show, it could seem like, well, dude, it's sex and love. Like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
That? Why would you even think the other way? I think I think if you look at Glenn's past, which is, you know, he's a pizza delivery guy, seemed like he didn't have much going for him, and I think it was that made him see that this new situation where the world is almost ending, he can make something of himself. He can be the hero that he couldn't be before.
You can be the hero. Hey, guys, you can help that in. You want to write that in the show and sing that song? I give you permission to take my idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that was his thing. He was like, I'm going to risk my life because if I go out and I die, then I die a martyr and a hero, and I can live with myself saying that that's what I did for the world.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have other things to live for. I mean, he doesn't know if his family's still alive. So for him, he's just grasping on whatever's around him, being fulfilled by helping the other person next to him. And then now that he does have that back, he has to battle with himself of whether is he a hero that he wants to be, or is he a wuss? Is he a normal person? Is he going to give in to the world that's chaotic? Like, what's he going to? It's just tons of things going on in his head. Like, now he's mad pie. Yeah. What? That too. But yeah, I mean, I think there's so much going on in his head. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes.
Why, you know, in this situation, what is it that you think that makes these characters not give up? Like, what makes them go? When every external sign seems to be like, there's really no hope and most everyone's dead, what keeps these people going?
I think maybe that's just human nature. You know, I mean, human nature is to just survive, regardless if, you know, you're barely surviving, you still do it. And, you know, there are those people that sometimes don't, and they just eat it. And I think that's what's powerful about the show, too, is that it's a glimpse into, you know, the whole world right now feels like, it doesn't feel like it's going to end. Like, everybody's all scared about 2012, or, you know, there's a whole financial crisis and stuff like that. And I think this show embodies embodies the idea of being able to see what it would be like if all those things that were afraid of happened. And it's nice to fantasize about, you know, what would you do and identify with which character. Like, would you go like Shane's route and go ballistic? Would you go Rick, try to keep society alive? Would you go like Glenn, where you're confused and you don't know what's going to happen? Would you go like Daryl and eat squirrels?
Damn squirrel eaters. sounds like a chick. And also sort of challenging the idea of, like, Herschel's character, you know, challenging the idea of spirituality and, you know, what does it all mean? And then, like, that's the first episode back, just that powerful moment of him going, I can't believe what an idiot I was. They were dead so long ago, and I just didn't see it. Is he just completely spiritually bankrupt now? Do you think, or do you think he'll get back on the?
He's at least spiritually taking a break right now, so we'll see where all that goes. I mean, it's going to be really interesting seeing what Herschel does over these next few episodes, because, you know, he has been in a very well-defined role thus far in the show, and, you know, the barn incident and Sophia being in there, and, you know, having to finally deal with the death of his wife, which is something he's been kind of putting off to a certain extent, is really going to inform his actions moving into these next few episodes, and I think we're going to see him doing some interesting stuff. I think Dave Navarro will probably not be so excited to have him die after he sees this.
Yeah, that was kind of weird that he wouldn't let that go. He was kept talking.
That's a Talking Dead inside joke for everybody that I heard going, what? Dave Navarro? What are you talking about?
He was great, though. I was shocked.
No, he wasn't. He was critical of the show.
I like how much he did, though.
He was very passionate about the show, and when Dave Navarro was Talking Dead, his concerns with Glenn were like, I want to see more zombie stuff in the first half of the season. And Glenn was like, you know it's coming, but we had to. No, Glenn was up. I think Glenn was there, the producer. And he said, you know, we just have to build. You know, Glenn's background is like the Shield. Like he wants to build the relationships between the characters so that then when you introduce zombies into the scene, you really kind of understand where everyone's coming from. But Dave Navarro kept saying, like, you should kill Herschel. We're like, why? You being a wiener about Herschel.
I did hear that Glenn Mazzara told me backstage that Dave Navarro revealed to him that he's just terrified of older people. That was kind of weird.
But he was really, but I didn't ever feel like he was attacking the show to attack it. He was just, he's a fan and he's very passionate and he just, you know, everyone kind of has their own ideas about what they want to see. But how does that, like, as the guy who created this universe, and people go, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? What is your reaction to that? Like,
yeah, my reaction is like, it's a lot of work, man. Let me do my thing. Like, what do you want from me? But no, I mean I'll say that the Dave Navarro thing to me, and I told you this in private, I thought that was awesome because it gives The Talking Dead as a show legitimacy. You know, it shows that it's not just a puff piece where people get out there and talk about how much they love The Walking Dead. Like, to actually see that fan interaction, you know, being broadcast was really cool. But, and that in particular, Dave Navarro loves this show.
He does.
He would not have been having that conversation if he didn't absolutely love the show.
Yeah.
And even when people are being critical of something that I've done, you know, I always have to remind myself, like, it's much worse for them to not care about it.
Right.
You know, like I've done projects before where I've never gotten negative feedback, and that's a pretty clear indication that there aren't enough people, you know, paying attention to your thing. You know,
that's a good thing to remember because the internet can be a den of negativity sometimes, and so it is good to remember, like, well, that's just because people are paying attention.
But you shouldn't spoil the end of Godfather 2. I don't care how.
You know, we're very loose-lipped on our podcast, so we have to have something. Here's what I want to ask you about Herschel. Since these characters live in your head, what's his backstory? Can you talk about his backstory? They do. Stop it, Herschel.